Welcome back, everybody.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Notes My Goats podcast. I am Brandon.
And I'm Steve.
How's it going, bud? How you doing?
Dude, I am doing good. It is mid-April right
Yeah.
now, so we're doing it's almost late April.
Almost
It
late
is
April at this point.
it
So
is
I'm
the
hoping
first
that we
time.
only have like 2 more snowfalls left.
Yeah, we don't have any more snow days left, so we can't have too much more because we used
Right.
all those damn things up.
Yeah.
Man, my kids are not going to school later than what they said. Nope, get them out,
Nope.
get them done.
Yep.
Um, it's interesting because it's like the first year in like 8 years I'm not coaching or have a kid playing baseball.
Wow.
I know
Steve's
it's
got
weird.
nothing going on.
Oh, nothing going on. You know my schedule.
I do.
Half of it includes you.
You're
So
right.
doing a lot of live stuff now. Well, it's
Yeah.
coming soon.
It's
But
coming.
doing a lot of networking right now for some odd reason. Me of all people.
Yeah. You're the face of
I don't
this
know how
thing,
that
apparently.
I am the face.
Doesn't
We're
mean you're the
screwed.
cute. Doesn't mean you're the
But
cutest, but you know, it is what it is.
no,
Yeah.
I'm the loudest. That's usually how it
Yes. You're
works.
the loudest and you're the scariest. Yeah, exactly.
Not wrong.
Right.
Not wrong.
Yeah.
I like it.
Right.
All right, guys. So that being said, me being loud and scary, it's a Friday episode, Brandon,
It is a Friday episode, Steve.
which means we have a guest.
Means we have a guest. Absolutely. So,
So
yeah. So, who are we talking to?
ask me the question and go, okay, guys. So we are a part of a couple of podcast groups on the social medias that we reach out to, and every once in a while, we'll ask for guests. People ask for guests a lot because it's one of the things we always need. Podcasts always want to talk to somebody else. So I threw out an ask, and this guy said, I'll come and talk to you guys, and we kind of talked back and forth about albums, and he came up with one that was pretty interesting, and it kind of fits right where we wanted to be for 2023, doing more
Absolutely.
70s, 80s, 60s, 70s, 80s rock. And
Yeah.
we hadn't really gone too much into that genre. So today, guys, we are joined by Al Seeger. He is a podcaster, musician, and role-playing game designer and author from Wisconsin, guys.
Yeah.
Al, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. Looking forward to this, and think it's going to be a good episode.
I do too.
I am
think
looking
so
forward
too.
to it as well. When you brought this up, I was like, we haven't done that band yet. I can't believe we
Right.
haven't done that band yet.
I know.
Because every single time somebody brings up one, and I'm like, we've done 260 episodes and we haven't done that one yet. Like, what the
Yeah.
hell are we thinking?
Yep.
We've
So,
done 2 Drake albums, we haven't done this one yet. What the hell?
Exactly. It's our own fault,
So-
Steve.
It is our own fault.
Yeah.
I blame one of those on you and one of them on a guest.
Sure.
That was not my choice. But so Al, who are we talking about today, and what album are we doing of theirs?
Okay, we are talking about Kiss, and the album is Music from the Elder, which, depending on who you ask, some people think it's better described as a concept album. Other people think it's more correctly classified as a movie soundtrack, which sure we'll be getting into today. And I thought it would be a good album to talk about because it's one of Kiss's I don't know if it's the worst selling album they've had, but it wasn't the big hit the band was hoping it would be. And I would even say it's a bit obscure among their body of work. And in my opinion, I personally think that it's one of the most underrated albums in the history of rock and roll. Just my personal opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree with you. There's definitely some fun here on this one. Now, like I said before, we hadn't done Kiss before, and I hadn't heard of this album, The Elder. I hadn't listened to this one ever.
Yeah.
So when you mentioned it, I was just like, well, it's Kiss. It's like, the early 80s. It's probably
Yeah.
gonna be decent. Most of the band was still involved at the time, so okay, let's see what we got. And it was, wow, was I not expecting what I got?
You know,
But
and a lot of people a lot of Kiss fans back then definitely had that same opinion where it's like, okay, this isn't the Kiss we're used to. And honestly, I would compare it to Metallica's Black Album in a lot of ways.
Oh,
Because I mean, I know when that album first came out, I mean, I've never been a huge Metallica fan, but I do
Me
really
either.
like the Black Album. And some of my friends I had who were big Metallica fans, some of them were like, well, it's not the Metallica we're used to, but it's still a good album. And then there's others that were like, well, it's not, they didn't really consider it a Metallica album. Well, then of course, Load, Reload, and Stanger came out. And I think some of those people looked back and it's like, okay, maybe the Black Album wasn't that bad after all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, say anger. I tell you what. So, but about Chris here. Kiss, not Chris. Ugh, wow. Way to go. About Kiss here. They're an American rock band formed in 1973 and still active, Brandon. They are still going. They haven't given it up yet.
Haven't
I'll
given
more
up
on that in
the
a second.
black and white makeup.
Well, some of them probably should have. A couple of them have. Um, so the original band, however, was Paul Stanley, Gene Simmons. Paul Stanley's the rhythm guitar player and vocals. Gene Simmons is bass and vocals. There's a running theme here, guys. Ace Frehley, lead guitar and
And
vocals.
vocals. Yeah.
And Peter Criss, drums and vocals. All four of them sang at some point. Now Ace Frehley was originally replaced, has been replaced thus far by Tommy Thayer. Peter Criss was replaced by Eric Singer. They are the two current band members in Kiss, as long with Paul Stanley and old ass Gene Simmons. Paul actually doesn't look bad for being as old as he is. He looks like he could still go. Gene, however,
he's seen better years.
There's a fun quote by Paul that came out just recently about this band, and they haven't retired yet, but if this band went on stage, he would kick his own ass. Is basically kind of what he said. They're not ready. Is what he's basically alluded to here. Now the band has had multiple lineups, as I said before. The only mainstays have been Stanley and Simmons. They're the only ones that have been around for the long haul. Now, if you guys aren't aware of Kiss, I can't figure out why Gene Simmons is mad at you because you didn't buy any of his gear yet. They are known for their face paint and stage outfits. The group rose to prominence in the mid 70s when they were kind of riding the satanic panic a little bit with a shock rock style live performances, which featured fire breathing, blood spitting, smoking guitars, shooting rockets, levitating drum kits, and pyrotechnics. When all of those things were controversial. Now it's just a normal show on a Saturday. Except for maybe the blood spitting. That's every once in a while thing. Unless you're at like a Machine Gun Kelly show. Now the band's personas. Paul, he is the star child. Gene is the demon. Ace was the spaceman, or these get worse as they go, guys. I'm just saying right now. Spaceman or Space Ace. And Peter is the Catman, which if you were gonna be a member of dress up like somebody like Kiss, it would be the Catman.
Hey, I'm all about the cats.
That, or you would be the Paul's version of Star Child with your chest hair all out and go for it.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Oil it up.
Yeah, heck yeah.
Now, in 1983, the band started what they called their unmasked era. Without the face paint, and had a resurgence led by the platinum album "Lick It Up." If you haven't seen that music video, please God, go listen to that music video. It's amazing in more ways than one. The band was a stalwart on MTV when MTV first came out, and the era lasted about 10 years ish. Early to mid 90s, they kind of came back with the original members came back in 1996. They reunited and brought back the costumes and the makeup for the reunion tour. The tour grossed over $143 million in 1996. It is their most successful tour of all time. Now, Peter Criss and Ace Frehley did leave the band once again soon after, and were replaced by Singer and Thayer. But the new musicians did keep their face paint and costumes, so they are playing the Space Ace and the Catman. So they didn't change up for there. Now they have 20 albums, 6 top 10s were the highest. Billboard was Sonic Boom was number 2, and Sonic Boom came out in like 2001 or something. It's relatively recent in the Kiss discography. 9 live albums, 14 compilation albums, four four solo albums in 1978.
Hmm.
This band, as I said, all of them sang. They thought it'd be a great idea for every member to put out their own solo album at the same time. It's just they're yeah, yep. Look, I couldn't believe that. I looked it up. It's a real thing. It happened.
Well, it
Um,
is interesting though when you do have bands where all of the members can actually sing, and that's one of the things I did find interesting about Kiss is the fact that since all of them were vocalists, it did give a little bit different feel to some of their songs. Because
yes.
because usually when you have just one singer, they're usually sticking within a different range. But when you have multiple lead vocalists in your group, then I think it gives you the potential for a lot of variety there.
And I think that's kind of what threw me off on the album a little bit too. I was like, who the hell is singing on this one? Like, who is that? Like, who's doing this? And like, okay, now I got to look up and see actually who the lead on this one is because it changes and it was weird. You wasn't sure who the lead singer was because there's not a lead singer. They take turns.
Right.
They like pass they pass the speaking stick and you got the speaking stick now and you can sing.
Yeah.
Like, you got that, so it's kind of worked out.
If you don't have the speaking stick, you keep your mouth shut, hands to yourself now.
Now they were nominated for one. They've only been nominated for one Grammy. In 1999, they were nominated for Best Hard Rock Performance for Psycho Circus. I found that very hard to believe that they only got one Grammy nomination in their whole career. Gene is probably super pissed about that somewhere, shape, or form. The band had, though, he's not pissed about this because this dude loves this fact. Sold over 100 million albums, 30 gold records, 14 platinum records, including 3 multi-platinum records, which Gene will tell you all about those if you ever listen to the man talk. We're not going to get into his own personal conquest because it's pretty high as well from what he said. He says original members were inducted in the Hall of Fame in 2014. MTV did rank the band the 9th best metal band of all time. VH1 had them the 10th best rock group of all time. And Loudwire, of all 3 of these, I agree with this one the most. Loudwire had them as the 3rd best live metal or rock group of all time. I would agree with that one. That they put on a hell of a live show.
Have you seen them live, Steve?
I have not, but I was able to watch some of their stuff because on YouTube and whatnot, there's some of their old shows are posted out there.
Okay.
And I've seen them on TV play live,
Sure.
but that's dumbed down for TV.
Oh,
but I have seen some of the stuff with like in the 70s and 80s with Gene just going nuts.
Yeah. I just didn't know with your security guard days if they were one of the ones that passed your.
I didn't get to see Kiss. I would have liked to see them probably in the 90s, early 2000s when they weren't as old as they are now.
Yeah.
I think it would have been interesting to see them. I agree with Paul now though. I don't need to see them wheel Gene Simmons out on a stretcher to do his thing in the 6'6" tall boots and do his
The man's 73 years old. I just looked it up.
And he looks like he's 105.
I mean, yeah.
Still though, you gotta respect the fact that they're still rocking after all these years, even if you're again not a huge fan. Iron Maiden is another band that's really been out there for a while, and I'm sure there's others. I just can't think of them off the top of my head. But
Metallica's been out forever, and they're still doing it for the most part. I mean, you got these older bands that are still going after it. Shit, Aerosmith is still touring, and of these bands, I don't dislike Kiss. I don't like Gene Simmons, but I just think he's a pompous ass. But mostly just me, and he plays that part very, very well. So he made a whole TV career out of it. So I mean, I love the dude for that because he can sell you pretty much anything, and he has sold pretty much anything. So I respect him, but I still think he's an ass personally. But it's kind of one of those things.
And when I get into the backstory of the Elder and how that album came to be, you'll probably have even more respect for Gene as a salesman and being able to convince people to do stuff.
Oh yeah. So before we get into that, I got one more quick question for both of you. How many average Spotify listeners do you think that Kiss gets on a monthly basis?
Like just total listens or
Like
like just
so
individual?
Spotify counts listeners as like if you listen to it once that month, you're counted as a listener.
So
So
like
how
if you
many
listen to
average
like
monthly
average,
listeners?
so if you listen even to like a like a rock station and a Kiss song comes on, that's a listen for Kiss.
Okay.
So, but how many times do you think like an individual Spotify listener, like someone listens to a Kiss song monthly? It's in the millions, I will tell you that.
10 million?
See,
Okay,
that's generally
Brandon.
where that's kind of what I was thinking. Oh man. 10 million. It's like I
Come
don't
on, Brandon.
know. I don't know why. I also don't know why I'm stressing so much about a stupid game. Uh, because I'm competitive and I want to win. That's what it is. We're gonna go 13.75.
Holy crap, dude! You're really close. You went over by a touch.
13.3.
13.1 or
Oh
13.2
man.
actually.
Okay.
13.2. 13
Well,
million 169,000.
well, in Price is Right, Al would have won. So
Al would have
Yeah.
won. So, but
and then I would have
still,
been pissed that I didn't win the car and the Winnebago. Like I would have just been upset, but whatever.
well, you're upset usually when you lose anyway. But it's
True.
still something that tells you like this band still pulls, and they
Yeah.
haven't put out anything new in a while. Shit, the song "I Was Made for Loving You" has been streamed 708 million times. Like
Wow.
there's just Rock and Roll All Night's 375 million times. It's been streamed, but their last like release was it looks like they put out War Machine again, like a live. It was live in Poughkeepsie from 1984, and it was something they just recently put out in the last year or so. But that's it. They haven't put out anything new in like 10 years, and they're still pulling 13 million people. Even Lick It Up has got 73 million streams.
It's
And
Yep.
impressive.
it's very impressive. I give them credit, and I do go to the fact that it's Gene just selling his ass off. But so Al, you asked to do some backstory on the Elder, and I'm okay with giving up that right every time I can give a chance to. So Al, give us some history on the Elder. What was this? What was it about?
Okay. So the story about the Elder begins in 1980. The
Mm-hmm.
band was at a crossroads in their career. Their last album, Unmasked, was not as well received as they had hoped. Peter Criss had left the band,
Mm-hmm.
and the remaining members were not sure what course they wanted to take. So Gene came up with the idea to make a concept album. While he was staying at a hotel, he wrote a story about a race of beings called the Elder, which he described as a life form without a body. They're benevolent, but committed to the balance of opposites. However, if the powers of evil get too strong, they will send a champion to make things right. Paul was on board with the idea, but Ace wasn't. He wanted to do a more traditional rock album to get back to their roots. This actually would eventually lead to some friction between Ace and Gene and Paul, because by this time, Peter Criss had been replaced by Eric Carr, but at least at this time, Eric was considered an employee of the band and not an equal partner. So he really didn't get a lot of say in the direction the band was going to take. I don't know if that ever changed before he died, but at least at this time, their relationship was employer and employee. Well, Ace felt like Gene and Paul were always overruling him. And as if to add insult to injury, some of his solos were removed from the finished album. This caused so much frustration to him that he would leave the band after the album and wouldn't come back until 96.
Mm-hmm.
So the band brought on Bob Ezrin as a producer. He had previously worked with Pink Floyd and was eager to do another concept album. They also brought Michael Kamen and the American Symphony Orchestra to work on the orchestral arrangements. Gene was so confident as to the potential success of this album, he thought they could turn it into a movie and possibly even a 2 or 3 part series.
Mm-hmm.
And there was actually a script that was in the works. There were also plans to have voice actors record some dialogue and use them between some of the songs. I know the remastered version has one of these dialogues after the song I don't know if any of the others have been recorded or if they exist on, somewhere out there, but sadly, the album was not as big as Gene had hoped. The plans to turn the album into a movie were scrapped, and the album never even got a proper tour. So that is a little bit of the background behind the story of the Elder. And as we discuss some of the songs, I might go a little bit more into it. But yeah, and again, a lot of fans, when they heard it, were like, well, some were like, this isn't the Kiss we're used to, but still a decent album. Other people are like, it's a good album. It's just not a Kiss album. And then there were some people who were like, this is garbage. And I don't remember if it was Paul or Gene, but one of them said that the reason he thought the album may not have gone over very well with their fans is because it wasn't their usual fuck me, suck me lyrics that some of their fans were accustomed to. And to some extent, I can kind of
totally got Brandon with that one. I'm just gonna say that right now. You got Brandon just about lost his shit when you said that. Was that the one line
Al's been so tame up to this point. Almost like, fuck me, suck me. I was like, oh shit.
That's probably about as vulgar as I'm gonna get. So
okay, no, you're fine. Fantastic. I was watching. You're reading, and I'm watching Brandon the video, and he went whoop, like what shit happened there? Oh, it was great. That was fantastic. Okay, sorry, Al, go ahead.
No, so I can, to some extent, I kind of understand why some fans may not have taken to it. Again, we talked about Metallica, how their Black album was just a bit decisive, and then Load, Reload, and Stanger. I mean, I guess I would think it's like, what if like Taylor Swift released a dystopian science fiction themed album that incorporated techno, or some rap star like Snoop Dogg made a swords and sorcery concept album backed by a symphony orchestra and a full choir. Some of their fans might not appreciate it, but then again, there might be people who don't normally listen to them, but like, I think I'm going to check that out.
Us. That would be us.
Yeah, for sure.
We like the weird shit.
We do like the weird shit.
Yep.
Yep.
But this one, I mean, I would say you're spot on. This album it was if you're looking for the traditional Kiss album like of the 70s, sorry, this is not what you're about to get here. So like thank you for that backstory. It was awesome. Like just the history on that. Because
yeah, absolutely.
Getting into Gene's mind is something not many people want to do very often, but like I can see where his concept of we're super duper popular. We are one of the greatest fucking rock bands of all time.
Yep.
And we're only like 8 years in, I can sell this shit. And that's Gene Simmons. And then like, I'm going to make a trilogy. I'm making Star Wars before Star Wars was even fucking cool, guys. And that's Gene. And I'm going to rip off everybody that I can and sell the hell out of this. And all of a sudden it didn't work. And that doesn't happen to that dude very often. Like his ploys tend to make him a lot of money. I mean, like I said, he sold a fucking TV show of his family being the Osbournes, but like less deranged, but more vulgar. I couldn't figure that shit out.
Yeah, I think I think one of the reasons they may have tried to choose this different direction is because their previous couple albums tried to do more of a disco pop influenced rock sound, which hadn't really won over their fans as much as they had hoped. So they thought, well, what the heck? Let's do a concept album and incorporate some classical and some other stuff into it. What's the worst that can happen?
Yeah, right. And I
Right.
think it is kind of one of those ones where I read a lot of fans and this is like the guilty pleasure Kiss album for a lot of Kiss fans. And they a lot of the like stalwarts really do enjoy it. So let's get into it, guys. So let's go into our favorite tracks. I'll go first and just kind of get it going here for us. So my favorite track was The Oath.
Okay.
I picked The Oath because this is exactly what I was expecting from a Kiss album. This is the Kiss song on this album. There's only one, and it's this one. My only down thing was that weird falsetto chorus that Paul tries to do, but it actually kind of works in this one. I can look past it, and I will say in this one, There's one it does not work in, and we'll get to that in a few minutes. Musically, though, it's that hard charging style that you expect. Paul's vocals during the verses are big, with that little delay that kind of make them sound even bigger. Like it gives you that arena rock vibe almost. Um, and it gives me this one. I listened to this one a couple of times because it really did give me kind of a Phantom of the Opera vibe. There was that big kind of sound music, and then like that extra falsetto, and then the delay. It kind of like it made it more cinematic and really tried to like pump up the pressure here, and it gave me more of that like Phantom vibe. So I could see the rock opera in this one a little bit more on that track. So I liked the Oath. All right, so Al, what was your favorite track? We'll let Brandon back clean up.
I agree with you 100% on the Oath being my favorite track on this album. So with this one, Ace actually played both of the guitar parts, and Paul actually did the bass on this one. And I, for the same reason, again, it's great heavy metal song. I love the lyrics, especially my favorite part is the one, like a blade of a sword, I am forged in flames, fire it hot. So just, oh, it's like hair stands up on the back of your neck every time I hear that. But yeah, this one is just metal as fuck compared to the rest of the albums.
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I thought I said I wasn't going to get vulgar anymore.
You go for it.
No, this is great. That's great.
That Midwest happiness can go away for now. You could drop some fucks. We're good with that.
Okay.
The Midwest nice guy, love it.
And it's interesting because there's two different lineups for the music from the Elder, and depending on the version you listen to, the Oath is in a different place. Now, in the original cassette version, which is the original American release, that's where I first heard of this particular album. It was the first song, but back then there was a different lineup that they used for the Japanese version. And I apologize, I'm cheating. I'm going to Wikipedia here.
Oh, no, that's how I did it. You're good.
That's how Steve does it.
Okay, so yeah, because originally the Oath was gonna be the 8th song. And the difference between the lineups is the Japanese version, which is the version we eventually got on the remaster. Supposedly that version told a better story, and the original American version, that one was changed to focus on the Oath and A World Without Heroes as singles. Now, eventually I did download the remastered versions from iTunes, and you know, it's weird because since I'm so used to the original version, the album just sounded wrong to me when I listened to the remastered version. So I don't know if that makes sense or not.
No, it makes sense. Yeah, definitely.
Because it's always like, okay, wait, no, that's not this next song that's supposed to come. What the heck?
Yeah, because they reordered it when they remastered it. They kind of moved it around a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so after downloading it, I had to go in and change the song orders because otherwise, to me, and the story that always formed in my mind when listening to the album, it just doesn't work with the remastered lineup.
Okay, interesting. And
that's
how that's how I listened to it. So that's interesting. Okay.
So what was your favorite track, Brandon?
I picked Dark Light as my favorite track.
Okay.
It kind of took me a while to find a track that I would pick as my favorite because these tracks are all kind of unique and good in their own ways and their own right. I did ultimately pick this song because overall it's a simple song lyrically, but I love the harmonies when they sing Dark Light. The chord structure for that perfectly executed in my opinion. And then heading right into the bridge of this song and that guitar solo, man, just the cherry on top that really allows for everyone to kind of ooh and ah over what's going on the stage. So that one for me was my favorite track. So
yeah,
absolutely.
And yeah, that one was based on a guitar riff by a man named Anton Fig, who was a session drummer that had worked with the band. It's the only song on the album that Ace sings on. And actually another little interesting thing, it was originally a song called Don't Run, but they repurposed it for the album and changed the lyrics.
Interesting.
Yeah, there is. I know I did find it on YouTube once. I'm not sure if it's still there, but totally different song. But I think that with it worked better as Dark Light than the original version.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I like Dark Light. We'll get into that in a minute here too.
Okay. Awesome. Sounds good. So, Steve, it's time for our first game.
Yes, it is.
It is time for the word association name game.
I was hoping to go Kiss Wang.
I was, but then I didn't.
Kiss Wang. Let's go.
Let's play Wang. Let's play Wang. Word association name game.
All right, Steve. So, you are in charge of the word association name game. So, kind of give everybody a rundown. You are. Did you do Shatner's poetry slam instead?
Dude, look at the spreadsheet. I can do it.
Interesting. That's not what I had in my notes, but it's fine.
I can do it. I got it. I got you.
All right.
All right. Okay. All right, guys. So on the fly, Shatner's or word association name game. This should be very interesting.
On the fly wing.
Because that means I have no filter. Okay. So how this works, guys, with the word association name game is I am going to take a track from the album and I'm going to either rework the words a little bit differently, give you a clue to what kind of the track I'm talking about, or just say whatever phrase pops in my head when I see the song title. So if you guys are ready, I do have two, because I do pick two normally, but I have two. All right. Number one. He's just a girl.
I'm just a boy.
There we go. Avril Lavigne. There we go.
Yep.
All right. Number two, and I chuckled when I saw this name because it came right to my head. Also, a shitty self-help book. Mm-mm.
Oh, that was a good guess. Yeah, because I was going to say I too.
Only you?
Nope.
Only you can prevent forest fires.
I'll give you one more.
Under the Odyssey?
Nope. It's The Oath.
Oh, okay. Wow.
The Oath is a shitty self-help book for like multi-level marketing.
Ah.
I had to read that. It was terrible. In college.
Nope. Over my head.
They made me read a multi-level marketing self-help book in fucking college.
I read the Odyssey.
I'm pretty sure our local community college is sponsored by Amway, so that made sense.
Yeah, and I mean, hey, and if any industry needs self-help books, it's probably an MLM.
Yeah,
yes,
right.
And it's definitely Amway.
For sure.
We are in Amway country, so I can talk shit about those people as much as I fucking want to.
Yeah, they're just down the road.
They're not far. I actually don't work far from where a couple of them live.
There you go.
So that has been the on the fly Wang. Not my best work, but you know how it works out here.
You know, you know what? As no matter the size, no matter if it's your best work or your not best work, it does the job.
I still finished.
So you still, yep. Oh God.
All right. Yeah. All right, guys. That has been that game that we're gonna not speak about anymore. It is time now for our least favorites, and I'm gonna go first again because holy shit, Just a Boy. That falsetto by Paul is something else, and not something good. It is amazingly bad. I don't know what the hell. It was so incredibly unexpected and distracting that I'm not even sure what was going on with the song, but I didn't want to listen to it again. Like, I was listening to it and I'm like, what the hell is that? And then I realized it was Paul, and I said, and it's still going. And I couldn't hear the lyrics. I was just hearing like cats having sex in my ears. What was going on? And I was like, why would you do this to yourself? And then it's just this doesn't make sense with Just a Boy. It's not the song title for this type of music here. So I didn't listen to it again to figure out exactly what it was about, but I did check Reddit, and I am not alone on that one. It's not a favorite of many people. So Just a Boy was my least favorite. Brandon, let's go with you first, and then we'll go to Al. So what was your least favorite?
I picked your guys' favorite track as my least favorite.
Really?
I did. For the fact that it's nitpicky and it's not a bad song, but for me, I could not get past that ringing in my ear falsetto. That was the falsetto that got me.
Really? I didn't mind that one.
Yeah.
He did it twice. That when on both of those tracks, he pulled the falsetto, but I think the music on mine was better.
I just couldn't get past it. So I mean, that's it. It's super nitpicky, but yeah, The Oath was my least favorite. So Al, what about you? What was your least favorite or most skippable?
Well, for me, it's very close between Odyssey and Just a Boy, but I would say Just a Boy edges out Odyssey because, again, it's that falsetto. I think the reason he probably did it is because the protagonist of the story is supposed to be young. So Paul was trying to sound like a young boy, I guess. And with this particular song, so the accompaniment was done by the American Symphony Orchestra. Paul and Bob Ezrin actually experimented with a variety of different ways to do the song. Like one idea they had was to do like an acoustic guitar and a piano. They tried different mixes before they came to the one that we have on the album. And according to Bob Ezrin, after they heard the finished version of the song, they really should have just stopped the project.
The whole project, like just done, no more.
Yeah, and I think so. The thing is, I don't know what year that quote was. What that year that quote was from. I mean, it's possible it may have been from a few years later, where he's like, okay, this album didn't go over as much as we thought, and so I'm going to start ripping on it. So try to distance myself from it, though. I understand a lot of modern audiences and reviewers have been kinder to the album.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in one interview, Bob Ezrin even said that he was doing a lot of cocaine at the time. So that's also what inspired him to do the album, but I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot going on with that one.
Well, then again, there was a lot of cocaine floating around at that time anyway.
Yes, that was.
You're not wrong.
This album is brought to you by cocaine. I'm pretty sure.
Not by us. Not by us.
Not by us. No, not by us. It was the 80s.
It was absolutely.
Yep.
I mean,
for sure.
Brandon wasn't even born yet. I wasn't technically either, but I was born shortly after this.
Yeah, I was. I mean, I was conceived in the 90s or the 80s. So
you just weren't born until the 90s.
Correct.
And I was like, yeah, and I was when this album came out, I was like 6 or 7 years old. So
okay. So you're not much older than me. Okay, so
yeah.
I was 84, so we're okay. So Brandon was born in 1990.
I was 75, so
okay, there we go.
Not bad.
Not bad. Okay, all right, Brandon. So it's time for Shatner's Poetry Slam. Let's get after it.
Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, this is Shatner's Poetry Slam.
I'm Captain Kirk.
Shatner's Poetry Slam.
Hey guys, so I have taken 2 tracks from this album, and I'm going to read the lyrics in a very William Shatner-esque random cadence, however I feel like it. And Al and Steve need to listen to these words that are coming out of my mouth and tell me what song from the album I am talking. So here's your guys' first song. I hear you calling me. We are on, and song title. through the realms of time and space. In that
Odyssey.
Yes, sir. Odyssey. Nice work. Steve, you could
I
have
was
done
trying.
better.
I was looking for it.
I know. All right, here's your next one, guys. Look out! Because there's something wrong. And you don't know what it is. Watch out.
Dark Light.
Yes, sir. Dark Light. Nailed it. All right. I mean, I expected nothing
Yelled
less
it at me.
because Al is just on it with his
On it.
on it. So, all right, guys, let's talk about now. Let's get into this our third category of discussion, and it's our deep cut dark horse tracks of the album. So I will start off first, and I picked "A World Without Heroes" as my deep cut track. This is
Okay.
one of the slower tracks on the album, as all three of us know. But the thing that really captivated me on this one was the story that they were sharing on this track. First couple of lines say, "World without heroes is a world without sun." I just think that this song really tells the true story that we have to have heroes in our world in order to make the world a better place. Musically, I also think this track did well with the harmonies that were kind of going on. It wasn't complex by any stretch of the imagination, but I for me it was the storytelling on this track. So for me, "A World Without Heroes" was my deep cut. Steve, what about you, bud?
I actually picked your favorite track, Dark Light.
Okay.
So, the beginning with the Jaws intro was awesome. I loved that. Like, definitely ode to Jaws as he was trying to drum up some more suspense there. And the fact that it's kind of Ace's swan song for the band since he quit shortly after this album came out was something there. Looking at, like, listening to the lyrics and kind of reading behind what's going on here, there's an undercurrent of like animosity between like what you can listen and understand kind of where Ace's head was around the time the album was released. He was pissed. Like, he was fucking pissed at Gene and Paul. He didn't want anything to do with their shit anymore. He was done with it. Like, the drug use was getting too much. He was done with Kiss because Kiss wasn't Kiss according to what it was anymore.
Right.
It was just commercialized bullshit, and he didn't like that. So like, I liked the change of pace on the track, and his guitar solo was just freaking phenomenal. It was one of the best ones on the album. He just let it freaking rip straight through here. But to be kind of how it all stacked up, and to know that he left the band shortly after this came out, like, because he was just like, they're fucking off their rockers. But he still kind of bought into the album concept. I got to give him credit because, but to know that I liked Dark Light. It was my other kind of other favorite from the track, but Dark Light was my deep cut. So Al, what about you? What was your deep cut? What was someone that kind of sticks out to you? It's
For me, it's Under the Rose. So this
Okay.
one, Eric Carr actually worked on most of the music, and Gene Simmons did most of the lyrics. The singing in the background, it's credited as St. Robert's Choir. And another one of those little fun facts, the band got permission from a local boys' school because they had a choir named St. Robert's Choir.
Mm-hmm.
So the choir itself, the members are uncredited, but it consists of Bob Ezrin and pretty much anyone else they could round up who was interested in singing it. And I do like the composition of it, how it has this very grand, epic, but yet solemn feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
And again, the lyrics sometimes just make the hair stand up on the back of my neck. I think one of my favorite lines in it is, "The more you hurt, the less you feel the pain."
Mm-hmm.
And I guess because, like, ever since I listened to this, first heard this song back in the 90s, it's like, this is one of those songs that sometimes helped me through some of the tougher times I've had in my life. And, I guess that's where I really took that particular verse to heart, because sometimes, the more pain, the more struggle, the more challenges you face in your life,
Mm-hmm.
that has a potential to make you stronger, where you learn to believe in yourself and start to overcome those obstacles. So they know, the pain you might feel at the time no longer bothers you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I like it. It's an interesting take on it for sure. Now, I didn't know this actually. So, and like to start kind of wrapping these things up, I was actually legitimately upset that I didn't do the background on this one after listening to this album because I was just like, where the hell did this come from? What were they thinking? And then like I had to look up a little bit of stuff. So like when I looked up some stuff, because I couldn't figure out like how the hell Kiss would make such a left turn and just go that direction. Like what would make this happen? But looking it up, the producer for the album had just got done doing The Wall by Pink Floyd.
Yeah.
And he wanted to kind of recreate the Kiss version of The Wall. No, it didn't
Yeah.
work. This is the Spinal Tap version of Kiss. It seriously is. It's not all bad. I'm really glad that they didn't buy in completely on it and just keep it going for other albums. They were just like, this one was a concept. It didn't, some things worked, some things didn't work, and we're gonna move on. And that's kind of what they did, and it worked. I'm glad they did that because it's to have the blip and understand and be like cognizant and move on is something that Gene Simmons hasn't shown he's able to do very often. So he's usually riding the dirt. But he kind of learned really quickly that something doesn't work for him. I will give them credit though, because every single one of the band members bought in 100% to this concept. They sold it as much as they possibly could until the ship was sinking. They sold the hell out of this thing, and they, with the production, the music playing, the lyrics, they really tried to do something that was off the wall, and they gave it everything they had, and I give them credit for that. As I said before, Kiss fans do call this a guilty pleasure album, and I can see how this could be a guilty pleasure album. As a passive Kiss listener who knows the hits, can go for the hits all the time, and kind of likes them in their heyday stuff, I gave this one a 5 out of 10. It's not bad. There is some interesting musically. There's a lot of interesting music on here, and it reminds me of bands that I like, kind of like you said before, that kind of just take that jump. There's a very we did the album before on our podcast. Rise Against is a punk band from Chicago, and they did a straight orchestra album, and it was beautifully done. Completely left turn from what they normally do, and they took their songs, made them completely orchestral, and did them that way. It worked. This one didn't, and that's okay. But I like when bands take the chance and take the jump here for it. So it's not all that bad. I can find a lot of good points in it. I can find a lot of bad points too. But when I look at it as like a Spinal Tap-esque thing, and like anything that makes me laugh at Gene Simmons more, I will give it credit. So I go for there.
Mhm.
So let's go, Al. So we'll you next. So we'll give your final thoughts and give it a rating out of 10.
I would probably give this album about an 8. I really do enjoy it. And whether you want to consider it a concept album or not, I think that depending on the order you listen to the songs, you can start to form an image of a story in your mind. And I do give Kiss credit for trying to do something that was out of their comfort zone, especially with trying to make a concept type album. I mean, those can be hard to do.
For sure.
And I think one of the reasons is with a concept album, the songs have to have some relation to each other. And with record companies nowadays, of course, they want to try to focus on, singles that they can sell to radio stations, that they can make music videos for. And, who cares if you've got, 8 bad songs on an album, but hey, here's 2 marketable singles. So when you are making a concept album, sometimes you can't take a song out of the story and have it make sense. I guess I would say compare it to like taking a chapter out of The Hobbit or one of the Lord of the Rings books. It doesn't necessarily work if you take it out of the full context of the story. But I definitely give him credit for trying. As we discussed before, Just a Boy didn't really work out the way it should have. One of my friends, the way he always described Odyssey, it's like Gene and Paul fell asleep and then started writing a song while they were still half asleep.
Yep,
So I
that makes
definitely give
sense.
him so I definitely give him credit for trying something so unique for their usual, their usual music that they were performing at the time.
Mhm.
And cocaine's a hell of a drug, so we've learned that before. So
Again,
Brandon,
not
how
by
about
any
you?
of us, but
Not by
whatever.
any of us. Yeah.
Right. Not
Statute of limitations,
sponsored,
Brandon. We're
not
pretty sure.
sponsored by cocaine right now. Just
So you're
kidding.
not sponsored by that film Cocaine Bear that came out not too long
Oh,
ago?
I would
Yeah.
100% be sponsored by that bear.
Right.
That bear can be on the podcast. Let's
That
go.
bear, yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, that bear gave an Oscar. He gave away an
Yeah,
Oscar.
phenomenal performance. Bear.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So all right, guys, my final thoughts on this one. Album for me, I thought was at least the remastered version, I thought was constructed really well. And my nerdy self really liked the orchestral feel that this one brought. Like I mentioned earlier, each track kind of brings their own is they're good in their own right, and they bring something special to the table, I think, it in one way or another, some more than others, obviously. But for me, I also really liked how the remastered kind of book ended with the fanfare and the ending track. Although this was a studio album that was kind of like it could be, but it's not, but it can be kind of thing. I do think that the way that the remastered was structured made it seem really great and really kind of brought me into like a movie-esque, and I could almost kind of create a movie in my mind based on what I was hearing. There's no denying that Kiss is good and they know how to play their instruments. However, there's a however, I will go on record and say that without the makeup and the gimmick of the makeup, I don't think that Kiss would be the same band as they are. I think that they would have gotten hidden with all the other bands during this time and ultimately faded away with less popularity than what they have, what they hold. But that's just me. That's just me being whatever. So,
like I said before, though, Brandon, with the live show, they were like the third best live rock band, and that was their aura. That's where they
Right.
sold the most. You're 100% right. If not for the live show and what they were doing to create that like satanic panic and
Yep.
all the craziness around them, they
Yep.
would not have been nearly as big as they were.
For sure. For sure.
But you're 100% right.
So, but at the end of the day, musicianship, 100% fantastic. Vocally, it's all right. All of that put together, I gave this one a 7.5 out of 10. So, not bad.
Nice.
Not bad. Yeah. So, guys, that was Music from the Elder by Kiss. Al, thanks for coming on the podcast and talking
Welcome.
about this album with us. Before we head out, is there anything that you're up to publicly that you want to share with our fans of like where they can find you, if they can find you kind of on social media or wherever?
Okay. Well, if you want to listen to my podcast, first my game designing, my company is Point of Insanity Game Studio, and you can find me on Facebook. You can also find me on Drive Through RPG. So if you're into downloading PDFs of role-playing games, you can find me on YouTube under Point of Insanity Game Studio. My podcast is at poigamestudio.podbean.com. I do a couple different podcasts. One of them is Strange and Interesting, which is about folklore, the paranormal, urban legends, and just other things that I find strange or interesting. I also do one called Creepypasta Theater, which is narrations of creepypastas, some that are off of the Creepypasta Wiki, others are original ones that I've written. And you can also and then also I do another one called Geekery in General. I haven't been as active with that one, but it's about role-playing games, geek culture, science fiction, fantasy, other geek type things. And you can look me up on Bandcamp under Al Seeger.
Awesome. We'll get
love
we'll get that stuff in our show notes as well. But that's great. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I'm getting more into the RPGs. My wife wants to get more into those. We've been hitting Comic Cons up, and she's been finding more stuff. So
Nice. Steve, where can
more money on my part.
where can our kids find us?
All right, so you guys can find us pretty much everywhere you found us so far. We are on every major podcasting platform: Spotify, iHeart, Pandora, Apple Podcasts, wherever you find us on there. Give us a rating and a review. Anything you do helps, especially the Apple Pods, the 5-star ratings, the reviews. Just help move us up the chain a little bit there, get us some more listens. We are on every social media avenue except for Truth Social yet, and OnlyFans. We haven't gotten there yet. Only goats. But we can be found on Facebook and Instagram at the Notes But Goats Podcast. TikTok is the Notes But Goats Podcast as well. We are on Twitter, but we do not post on Twitter very often because why, Brandon?
Fuck Elon Musk.
100%. That guy sucks. And as I said before, Zuckerberg, you're one step away, motherfucker. Keep taking shit away. I tell you right now. I'm just gonna keep posting my TikToks there because I don't even care.
Absolutely.
But so, guys, this has been, as we said before, this has been the music from The Elder by Kiss. We loved it. To the most part here, check it out. If you're a Kiss fan, you haven't listened to this one yet, you're probably not a Kiss fan. And if you are or just kind of familiar with Kiss a little bit, listen to this one because it's something you haven't heard before. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah.
But guys, we are the Notes But Goats Podcast. I am Steve.
I'm Brandon.
And we will see you guys next week.
Bye, guys.